Hey, welcome back to a new video. It's a bit of a strange start because I'm out doing a shoot. I plan to do this video out and about in nature and do some pretty 4K B-roll with the M50 in manual mode, show you how to do it, show you how it's done, show you how capable this camera is. I'm gonna walk this way, let's walk this way. But in typical English fashion, the weather has turned on me instantly. It's been sunny all week. I've had an early finish at work and yeah, I'm stuck basically. I've got no weather sealed cam. Obviously the M50 isn't weather sealed. I've a bit underprepared when it comes to clothing and weather wear. So I thought we'd retire to the studio, find something in the studio to film in 4K, show you what you can do with this camera. It does do 4K obviously, but it hasn't got the autofocus. But if you work hard enough and learn your camera well enough, you can use manual mode and other things that can help you with the 4K on the M50. So we'll get back to the studio. We'll do a little bit of recording there, see what I can conjure up. Let's get back to the studio now.
I've had the M50 for 2.5 years now. I actually pre-ordered it when it was announced. The day it was announced, I pre-ordered it because it just sounded like an awesome camera, and it's been a fantastic camera. For someone who started YouTube a few years ago, this has been the absolutely perfect camera to start with, and I fully recommend it even in 2020 for somebody that's starting out with photography or just casually doing video recording, or even sort of as a second camera for YouTube. I think I might be upgrading soon, but we'll see what happens. But the M50 at the moment is still my main camera. It's a fantastic camera and I fully recommend it. The lenses are still limited on the EFM mounts, but hopefully they're going to be announcing some new lenses when they release the M50 Mark II, hopefully sort of January, February time. We'll see some new lenses come out soon. In the meantime, Sigma have been helping us out with the EFM mount lenses. I'm using the 16mm f1.4 at the moment. They're prime lenses, they're fixed focal length, so they are a little bit limiting when it comes to doing different things. I didn't actually go down the line of buying the 56 or the 35, is it? 32 or the 56 version of the Sigma lens. Although they are fantastic lenses, I was always planning on making that move up to full frame eventually, so that's why I sort of held back from buying those lenses. So although it's been a fantastic camera, it has got its limitations. When you want to start doing more advanced things, photography is just fine. It's got a manual mode, the pictures have come out good. I've taken some fantastic photos with it. As I've said, you are limited with the lenses, native lenses for Canon. You can put an adapter on and use the EFS lenses of the past Canon lenses. That's funny what's just happened actually, the batteries died, and that's another thing about the Canon M50 is that the battery life is quite poor. I've got 5 or 6 batteries. How many have I got? 5 batteries, and you know, you're lucky to get half an hour, 45 minutes worth of recording out of it. What was the same? The lenses, yeah, you can as an adapter and put the EFS lenses from Canon on there, which is fine. We'll get to 4K in a minute, but the other limitations are the fact that it's a crop sensor camera. Now, crop sensor cameras aren't necessarily bad, but they're not as good as the full frame. It's good for what it is, but I think for what I'm going to be using it for possibly wedding photography, for astrophotography, for low light conditions and other photography, and especially doing some more advanced video work with it, I need a full frame camera going forward. The 120 frames per second is only 720p, which I've used a couple of times and doesn't look too bad when compressed onto a YouTube video, but still isn't brilliant if you want to take this camera and do sort of professional client work. It's not the camera for you. Like I said, the battery life as well is a little bit limiting, but apart from that, it's a pretty decent camera and I still recommend you buying it in 2020. As far as the 4K goes, it's more or less useless. You can do 4K time lapses, which is good, but the 4K video is very limiting because it hasn't got that dual pixel autofocus. It's only got a contrast based a detection autofocus system, and it just doesn't work. It just doesn't work at all. We're going to test out in the last part of this video, doing a little bit of B-roll with the 4K. You've got that crop as well, which is a 1.6 crop on top of the already 1.6 crop that you have on an APS-C sensor. So we're going to try and do some manual focusing with the 4K, see if we can get some decent results from just a bit of B-roll, and you can decide for yourself what you think and whether this camera is worth buying still in 2020. Even when I get my new full frame camera, I'm still going to use this M50 as a second camera, a different angle camera, a top-down camera, because it's still brilliant. It really is a fantastic camera in 2020 still. Right, let's get some 4K B-roll done, see if we can master this manual focusing. Let's try a bit of a test, a bit of an experiment. Let's see how we get on. This is 4K. This is 4K with the crop, the M50, 25 frames per second, and what does it look like? It's, see how it loses the focus, and I'll compare that. This is gone, it's lost me, and it takes, it's fishing and sort of ghosting in and out, trying to find the focus point, and yeah, it's just really disappointing that the 4K on this didn't have autofocus, didn't have the dual pixel autofocus. It would have been so much better. I'll switch over to 1080p with dual pixel at 25 frames per second, and you can see what that looks like in comparison. So this is 1080p, autofocus on, dual pixel autofocus, and you can see straight away it's tracking me forward nice and quick. There's no tiny little bit of lag when I come really close, but that dual pixel autofocus is, in my eyes, the best autofocus system that you can get. So that's it. That's a little bit of a look at the manual focusing in 4K. It's a little bit difficult. It still sort of has that ghosting in and out, trying to find the focus even when you're in 4K manual mode for some reason. There's no in-body stabilization as well on the M50, so it's hard to keep it steady when you're doing the shots at 25 frames per second. It's only 25 frames per second in 4K. There's no other options. There's no 4K 60. There's no 4, so you can't slow it down to make it a bit smoother. So it's just disappointing. There's limits to this camera, although I do still recommend it as a vlogging camera at 1080. It's brilliant. That autofocus is fantastic when you got it in 1080. You have got 720. 120 frames per second if you want to use it. You've got 60 frames per second in 1080, so you can slow it down by 50%. You have got that time-lapse feature built in 4K, and that works well. It's a very nice feature, and all in all, it's just a really good quality camera for somebody, especially for somebody who's starting out in YouTube, starting out in photography, to get used to using the camera in manual mode. Manual video mode is something you need to get used to as well, so you can have an ND filter on there instead of keeping the settings the same. So if you want to go out with your aperture wide open in bright sunlight, you need an ND filter to darken it down a little bit, so you don't have to change the shutter speed, so it gets that nice blurred out background. But overall, yeah, like I said, it's good. It's a good camera. I still fully recommend it if you're just getting into photography, YouTube, video making, anything like that. Fully recommend the M50. Loads of big videos coming soon. Tech, possible camera, possible new lenses, loads of, hopefully once this whole COVID situation is over, some more traveling. So make sure you do stay tuned and press the bell so you don't miss any upload. Subscribe, do it. Yeah, you subscribe. Thank you. Until next time, guys, take it easy. See you in the next video.